Hey folks, Grant from Gunspot here for the Army Life. In today's video, we're going to be talking about 5 essential things that you need in your pack. Okay, so I just came back from Colorado after a pretty lengthy backpacking overlanding trip. Did about 68 miles in total, high elevation. First time I've done a true backpacking trip, and I picked 5 of the best, most important pieces of gear that I depended on for this trip to make this video. So gear piece number 1, without a doubt, is going to be a good water filtration device. Now, you just can't ever plan that you're gonna have good quality drinking water, and as you know, water is really life. Most of the human body is made up of water, so if you're not constantly thinking about how to obtain it, keeping hydrated, you're behind the power curve. I use this MSR Hyperflow system and it worked fantastic. Not only did it work well, but it is super light, which, as the old saying goes, ounces equal pounds and pounds equal pain. And when you're at 11,000 feet, there's a whole lot of pain just there anyway without adding on a bunch of extra weight. So piece number 1 is definitely a good water filtration device. Gear piece number 2 would be a good wet weather gear setup. Now for this particular setup, I chose Numa Outdoors 3L element gear, and it worked fantastic. I literally had snow and rain, or both, almost every day in my week-long backpacking trip, and this stuff was phenomenal. It really was built for backpacking, down to these supportive ribs on the shoulders and on the knees, giving you extra protection and keeping that water from seeping through in those pressure points. Fantastic choice on my part. Gear piece number 3 would be a good set of trekking poles. My buddy that went with me ahead of the trip called me and said, "Do I need trekking poles?" And I just said, "Yeah, I think you do." I really didn't have a lot of backpacking experience. We definitely didn't use them in the Marine Corps humping, but I am so glad that I had them. Literally, this pole, as you can see in the bend, saved my right knee from a blowout as we were coming down off a peak, slipped on some ice, foot wanted to go one way, the rest of my body wanted to go the other way. The pole is what kept me from blowing out my knee, I have no doubt. These things are worth their weight in gold. Don't just buy the cheapies though, because the cheapies aren't gonna take that kind of abuse and give you the support that you need. Gear piece number 4 is a good mat system. You've got to stay off the ground, especially when you're in those colder temperatures. It becomes super important that you have some kind of insulating factor between you and the ground. We had a couple nights where it got down in the teens, and without being up off the ground and having that insulating factor like this Thermarest, I don't know that I could have lasted for an entire week. My body would have just probably fallen apart at my age, but it is a great piece of gear, very important, often overlooked or maybe cheaped out on. Don't give yourself the rest that it needs. The 5th piece of gear kind of goes along with that mat, and that is a good sleeping bag system. I went with a Snug Pack. Not only was the Snug Pack very warm, even in those teens, it is pretty light, and as you can tell from the compression sack, it compacts nicely so that you're not carrying a bunch of extra bulk. So lightweight plus warmth, it really impressed me. It kind of scared me when I first opened it up and it was already starting to kind of snow and mist, and I saw how thin it was, but I stayed relatively comfortable all night long. And relative is just one of those words that kind of scares some people. For all intensive purposes, I was very comfortable. Okay, so those are the 5 things that I chose as essential items. There obviously is going to be more gear that is needed than that, but those are 5 important pieces of gear. Whether your pack is for backpacking or bugging out, I think you're gonna need those items for sure in it. And thanks for watching. Remember, train hard, your family deserves it.